He didn't even wipe the smirk off his face before he walked through the front door. That's the part I keep coming back to. Not the lies, not the credit card statements I'd already printed out and folded into the back of my underwear drawer. Not even the 10 days he was gone. It's that smirk, relaxed, sun-kissed, carrying a duty-free bag like he'd just come back from a boys' golf weekend, and the way he kissed my cheek and said, "God, I missed you." I said, "I missed you too," and I meant neither word. His name is Marcus. We met when I was 26 at a mutual friend's birthday party in Austin. I was finishing my second year of teaching middle school English, and he was in sales, medical devices, the kind of job that sounds more glamorous than it is, until you realize it mostly means flying to different hospitals and taking doctors to steakhouses. He was charming in that effortless way that should have been a warning sign. But when you're 26 and someone looks at you like you're the only person in a crowded room, you don't read warning signs. You read romance. We got married 3 years later. We have a daughter. She's 4. Her name is Lily and she has his eyes and my stubbornness, and I would light the whole world on fire for her. That matters. Hold on to that. The first time I noticed something was off, it was a Tuesday in February. Marcus came home distracted in a way that felt different from his usual work stress distracted. Work stress Marcus went quiet, stared at his phone at the dinner table, gave one-word answers. This was something else. This was a man trying very hard to act normal and not quite landing it. He kept checking his phone face down on the counter. He laughed a little too easily at things that weren't funny. He asked me how my day was twice. I filed it away. I didn't say anything. I'm a middle school English teacher. I spend 8 hours a day reading subtext. 2 weeks later, he told me his company had a regional sales conference in Nashville. 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. He'd done these before, twice a year, sometimes 3 times, usually boring hotel ballrooms and too many team dinners. I had no reason not to believe him. He left on a Thursday morning. I dropped Lily at daycare, went to school, taught 3 classes on The Outsiders, and came home to a quiet house. That part was normal. That part was fine. What wasn't fine was that on Friday afternoon I got an alert on my phone. We share a joint credit card. His idea, actually. Years ago. Something about points and simplicity. I have the app. I don't usually check it obsessively. But that Friday I was sitting in the carpool line at Lily's daycare, phone in hand, nothing else to do, and I opened it out of pure boredom. The charge that stopped my breath was from a place called Helicon House. I didn't recognize it. I googled it while I sat in that carpool line. Lily's daycare teachers waving at cars ahead of me. Halcyon House. A boutique hotel. St. Augustine, Florida. Not Nashville, Tennessee. I sat there for a long time, long enough that the car behind me tapped their horn softly. I pulled forward. I buckled Lily into her car seat. I listened to her tell me about a caterpillar she found at recess. I said, "Wow, a caterpillar, that's so cool, baby," and I drove us home on autopilot, because the part of my brain responsible for navigating traffic had completely disconnected from the part of my brain that was now doing very quiet, very focused arithmetic. St. Augustine, Florida. Boutique hotel. $340 a night. Not a sales conference. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I would, but I just felt cold. The kind of cold that starts in your chest and moves outward slowly, like ice water spreading through your rib cage. I put Lily to bed. I opened my laptop. I went through the credit card statements for the past 3 months. Not just the app. The actual PDF statements, which I downloaded and read line by line. Here's what I found. A flower delivery in January. I never got flowers in January. I'd assumed it was for a client or something work-related and hadn't questioned it because why would I? Now I questioned it. 2 charges to a restaurant in the Domain. A nice one. The kind we only go to for anniversaries on a Tuesday night in December when Marcus told me he had a late meeting. An Airbnb in the Texas Hill Country in October. A weekend when he told me he was visiting his college roommate in San Antonio. I sat at my kitchen table until 1 a.m. I drank 2 glasses of wine. I read everything twice. Then I did something that, looking back, I think was the smartest decision I made in the entire 8 months that followed. I closed my laptop, I went to bed, and I did not say a single word to my husband when he came home on Sunday. He walked in smiling. Duty-free bag. Cheek kiss. God, I missed you. Lily ran at him and he swung her up, and for a second he looked like the man I married, and I almost said something right there. But I didn't. I asked him how the conference was. He said it was great, same as always. Lots of sessions about regulatory updates, a team dinner that ran too long. I nodded. I asked if Nashville was cold this time of year. He said yes, freezing. He should have packed a heavier jacket. I said, next time. He said, next time for sure. I went to refill my coffee and I thought about St. Augustine, Florida, where the average February temperature is 68 degrees. Here is what I did not do. I did not confront him immediately. I did not call my best friend and sob on the phone. I did not make some dramatic gesture. Here is what I did do. I called a family law attorney on Monday morning from the parking lot of a Walgreens 3 miles from my school. Her name was Rebecca, and within 40 minutes she had explained to me very clearly what my rights were in the state of Texas, what documentation I should be gathering, and what I absolutely should not say or do before we had a strategy in place. I took notes on the back of a Walgreens receipt. Then I went and taught 6th graders about foreshadowing, which felt deeply appropriate. Over the next 3 weeks, I gathered everything Rebecca told me to gather. Bank statements, tax returns, shared account activity. I screenshot everything on the credit card app and emailed it to myself from an account Marcus didn't know I had. I wrote down dates, times, and amounts in a notes app I password protected. I was calm. I was methodical. I was, I think, running on a kind of adrenaline that only activates when you realize the life you thought you were living is a stage set with a back wall you never looked behind. Marcus, for his part, was being wonderful, attentive. He brought home groceries without being asked. He gave Lily a bath 2 nights in a row. He asked me how I was sleeping, whether I wanted to try that Thai place downtown, whether I was stressed about parent-teacher conferences coming up. I said I was fine. I said Thai sounded great. I said conferences were always a lot, but I'd manage. And every night after he fell asleep, I lay in the dark and thought about that hotel in St. Augustine and who was in the room with him. Her name, I found out eventually, was Courtney. She worked in his company's marketing department, remote, based in Jacksonville. They had apparently been in the same Slack channels for a year before things shifted. She was 29. She had a golden retriever and a very public Instagram account that I found within about 4 minutes of knowing her name. I want to be fair here. She is not the villain of this story. Or rather, she's not the only villain. She knew he was married. That makes her a participant. But Marcus is the one who made a vow to me. Marcus is the one who had a daughter asleep down the hall. The architecture of this betrayal is his. Still, I noticed things about her Instagram. One thing in particular. A few weeks before Marcus left for Nashville, Courtney had posted a vague caption, "Healing is not linear. Grateful for those who check in." Comments were full of heart emojis and sending love, and "you've been through so much," nothing specific. But she mentioned in a story once, months earlier, that she'd been dealing with a health thing she wasn't ready to talk about publicly. I bookmarked it. I didn't know exactly what the health thing was. I didn't need to. Marcus came home from work on a Wednesday. Lily was already in bed. I had made dinner. Nothing elaborate, just pasta. Because I am not the kind of woman who makes a 4-course meal before a confrontation, I am the kind of woman who makes pasta because it's Wednesday and she's tired and life goes on. We sat down. He poured himself a glass of red wine. He asked how my day was. "Good," I said. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something." "Sure," he said. He reached for the bread. "How's Courtney doing?" I asked. "Is she feeling better?" He stopped. Not dramatically. He didn't drop anything, didn't choke. He just stopped very completely, with his hand halfway to the bread basket, and for about 2 seconds the kitchen was completely silent. "What?" he said. Courtney, I said. From your marketing team. She mentioned on her Instagram a while back that she was dealing with some kind of health issue. I saw it and thought of you. I know you guys collaborate sometimes. Is she doing okay? I watched him try to decide what to do with his face. He picked up the bread. He put it on his plate. He took a sip of wine. I don't really keep up with her socials, he said. She seemed fine at work. I think she's fine. Oh, good, I said. I just wondered because I came across her profile and I remember you mentioning her name a while back. I couldn't remember why. Do you remember why you mentioned her? Another pause. Shorter this time. Probably just a work thing, he said. She's on the Q2 campaign. Right, I said. I ate my pasta. I asked him whether he thought Lily was ready to start swimming lessons. He said probably. He'd heard good things about a place on Lamar. We talked about swimming lessons for 11 minutes. He excused himself early to check some emails, and I sat at the table alone with my wine, and I thought, he has no idea what I know. He has no idea what I've already done. He barely slept that night. I know because I barely slept either, and I could hear him, the particular shallow non-sleep of someone running calculations in the dark. By morning he was distracted again. He forgot to make coffee, which he never forgets. He left his phone face up on the bathroom counter while he was in the shower, a change in habit so abrupt it was almost its own confession. I didn't look at his phone. I didn't need to. 2 days later, he came to me. We were in the kitchen again. The kitchen is where everything in our marriage happened, I realize. The good dinners and the stupid fights and the late nights. And now this. And he sat down across from me and he said, I have to tell you something. I said, okay. He told me about Courtney. Not everything. Men rarely tell you everything. They tell you the version they've calculated will cost them the least, but enough. The St. Augustine trip. Some others. 6 months, he said. Maybe a little more, he said. I listened to all of it. Then I said, are you still in contact with her? He said he'd ended it. 2 weeks ago, he said. I said, does she have any health issues I should know about? He looked like I'd reached across the table and grabbed his throat. What? He said. Why would you? What are you asking me? I said it very gently, Marcus. I've known about Courtney since February. I've been to see an attorney. I have 3 months of documentation. I'm asking about her health because if there's anything medically relevant, I would like to know before we discuss next steps. He sat there. He sat there for a very long time. Then he said, in a voice I'd never heard from him before, she said she had an HPV diagnosis. Earlier this year, she said it was cleared. She said, okay, I said, are you? I have a doctor's appointment Friday, I said. I made it last week. He put his head in his hands. I finished my coffee. The weeks that followed were not a movie. They were slow and administrative and exhausting. There were conversations I don't want to repeat and legal documents I had to read 3 times to understand, and a mediation session where Marcus showed up looking like he hadn't slept since the kitchen confession, which he probably hadn't. My doctor's appointment was fine. Everything was fine. I want to say that clearly. Rebecca, my attorney, was extraordinary. She had the flat, precise energy of someone who has seen this exact situation approximately 800 times and has no patience for anything other than getting her client what they're entitled to. She was the person I needed in that season of my life. We had the house in my name originally. Marcus had pushed to add his name after we married. In the settlement, I kept the house. I kept my car. I got primary custody of Lily, with Marcus having her every other weekend and 1 evening a week. He pays child support as he should. We split the retirement accounts. He asked at one point in mediation whether we could try counseling first. I said no. Not with anger, just clearly, the way you close a door when you've made a decision and there's nothing left to reconsider. There is a moment from 3 weeks after everything was settled that I want to tell you about, because it's the thing I come back to when the nights get hard. It was a Saturday morning. Lily had asked for chocolate chip pancakes and I was standing at the stove, spatula in hand, and she was sitting at the kitchen counter on her little stool. telling me very seriously about a dream she'd had involving a talking dolphin. And I just laughed. A real one. The kind that starts somewhere in your chest and comes out before you've made any decision about it. It occurred to me, standing there with pancake batter on my wrist, that the kitchen no longer felt like the place where everything fell apart. It just felt like my kitchen. Lily's kitchen. Our kitchen. That was the first morning I thought, I'm going to be okay. Not performing it, not telling myself I should believe it. Just knowing it. The way you know weather is changing by something in the air before the clouds shift. People ask me sometimes. Friends who knew us, who sat at our wedding and took pictures and wrote kind things in our guest book. They ask me how I stayed so calm through all of it. How I waited instead of confronting him immediately. How I sat across from him at that dinner table and talked about swimming lessons while knowing everything I knew. I tell them, I'm an English teacher. I read stories for a living. I know how they work. I know that the moment you reveal what you know, the story stops being yours and becomes a reaction to someone else. I didn't want to react. I wanted to act. I wanted to be the person at the end of the story who did it right. Not for him, not for anyone watching. For Lily, for the version of myself that has to look my daughter in the eye for the rest of her life and know I handled the hardest thing with as much dignity as I could manage. I'm 31 now. I have a 4-year-old who is obsessed with dolphins and a house with a good yard and a job I love and a Thursday night standing dinner date with my 2 closest friends. I have a therapist I see every other week. I have a doctor I trust. I have a best friend who drove 3 hours when I finally told her everything, showed up at my door with wine and said nothing for the first 20 minutes, which is exactly what I needed. I don't know what Courtney's doing. I genuinely don't. I unblocked her Instagram a few months ago out of curiosity, and then I closed it and deleted the app from my phone, because she is not part of my story anymore. She was a chapter. The chapter is closed. Marcus's. He's doing what he does. He's in Lily's life, because she deserves that, and for her sake we are civil to each other in the way of people who once loved each other and no longer have access to that feeling. He's in a new apartment across town. He calls Lily on the nights she's with me, and she tells him about dolphins and caterpillars, and I can hear his voice through the phone being gentle with her, and I'm glad for that at least. Whatever he did to me, he is still her father. The last thing I want to say, and I mean this with everything in me, is that the moment I remember most from this entire chapter of my life is not the credit card alert in the carpool line. It's not the confrontation in the kitchen. It's not even the day the divorce was finalized, though I went home that afternoon and sat on the back porch alone for a long time. It's the spatula moment. The dolphin pancakes. The laugh I didn't plan. Because that's when I knew the story had a next chapter, and the next chapter was going to be mine. I've thought about this a lot. What made the difference? Not in the marriage. That was over the moment Marcus chose to lie and lie again and build a second life out of business trips and turned over phones. I mean, what made the difference in me? Why I didn't fall apart? Why I could sit across from him at that dinner table and talk about swimming lessons for Lily while knowing everything I knew. I think it comes down to something pretty simple. Even if it doesn't feel simple when you're living it, the choices you make when you're scared tell you exactly who you are. I was scared. I want to be honest about that. Finding those charges on the credit card statement. Sitting in a carpool line in a minivan with my daughter's backpack in the seat behind me. I was terrified in a way I hadn't been since I was a kid. Not of being alone. Not even of the divorce. I was scared of what it meant that I had believed him for months without questioning it. That scared me more than anything. But fear is information. It's not a verdict. What I did with that fear, writing things down, calling Rebecca, going to work the next day and teaching foreshadowing to a room full of 11-year-olds who had no idea their teacher was quietly dismantling her marriage in the parking lot during lunch, that was a choice. Every single day of those 3 weeks was a choice to act from clarity instead of from pain. Marcus made choices too. Over and over for what turned out to be longer than 6 months. And every one of those choices had a consequence. he didn't think about. Because people who are deceiving someone they love have a way of not thinking too far ahead. He thought about what he wanted. He didn't think about the carpool line. He didn't think about Lily asking me why Daddy was sleeping somewhere else now. He didn't think about what it would cost him to sit across from his wife at a dinner table and lie directly to her face and then have her look back at him, completely calm, already knowing. There's a word I keep coming back to: integrity. Not the version that means following rules. The structural version. The way engineers use it when they talk about a building. Integrity means that what's on the outside matches what's on the inside. That the foundation is solid, that when pressure is applied, the thing holds. I found out, under the worst pressure of my adult life, that I had more integrity than I knew. I found out that I could handle the truth better than I could handle uncertainty. I found out that protecting Lily, giving her a mother who went through something hard and handled it with her head up, mattered more to me than preserving a version of my life that was already hollow. And Marcus found out what happens when the person you underestimated has been quietly building a case for 3 weeks. I'm not angry anymore. I was for a long time, and I think that was fair. But what I feel now is something closer to clear-eyed. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I know that I can sit in a carpool line with my heart breaking and still drive my daughter home safely and make her dinner and read her a story and put her to bed with a kiss on her forehead. That's the thing no one can take from you, the knowledge of what you did when it was hard. Lily is 4. She won't remember any of this. But someday, when she's old enough to face something hard herself, I hope she looks at me and sees someone who didn't fall apart. Someone who got quiet, got clear, and got through it. That's the only inheritance that matters to me now.